The Alpha King rejected the Omega and watched his rival Alpha claim her before the entire kingdom. The kingdom of Valdoria was alive with light and shadow that night. Lanterns hung like scattered stars along the cobblestone streets, and the air carried the scent of burning incense and the faint rustle of autumn leaves. The Festival of Shadows had begun, a night when the people honored the ancient spirits and old pacts, a night when the moon ruled the sky in silver dominance. In the heart of the kingdom, atop the marble steps of the grand palace, Elira stood, her heart a storm of anticipation and fear. She was the Omega of the Moonblood, a lineage whispered about in the darkest corners of the kingdom. Her mark, a pale crescent-shaped scar on her wrist, shimmered faintly under the lantern light. Some said it was a blessing, others whispered it was a curse, but tonight it felt like both. The grand courtyard was filled with the kingdom's elite. Lords and ladies adorned in shimmering fabrics, crowns heavy with jewels and capes that swept the ground, all turned their eyes toward the steps. And at the center of it all, on a raised dais of obsidian stone, Kalen, the Alpha King, waited. His dark hair fell like a curtain over his stern face, and his eyes, sharp and commanding, swept the crowd with quiet authority. But when they lingered on Elira, there was a shadow there, an emotion he could not name. Elira's chest tightened as she walked forward. She was expected to kneel, to present herself, to accept her fate as his mate, or to be rejected before the entire kingdom. The moment felt heavy, like the night itself had pressed upon her shoulders. The wind whispered against her hair, carrying with it a hint of danger and destiny. Kalen's gaze did not waver. He studied her with the precision of a hawk, yet behind the calm mask of a king, his mind was a tempest. He knew what the Moonblood mark meant. He knew the stories of power and destruction that clung to her like a shadow, and though a part of him longed to reach out to claim her, another part, one forged from fear, pain, and past loss, held him back. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder. "She is beautiful," one whispered. "Do you think the king will choose her?" another asked. But the truth was, no one could predict Kalen's choice, not even Elira. Kalen rose slowly, his presence demanding silence. The air seemed to thicken, as if the night itself held its breath. "Elira of the Moonblood," he said, his voice deep and resonant, echoing against the marble walls. "You have been brought before me tonight to be chosen or to be rejected. Know this, the path you take will not be easy, for your mark carries power and peril alike." Elira nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. She wanted to speak, to tell him she was ready, that she could bear the weight of her mark. But the words lodged in her throat. All she could do was wait, feeling the entire kingdom's gaze upon her. Kalen's eyes softened just for a moment, but the softness was quickly replaced with steel. "I cannot claim you," he said, his voice steady, almost cruel in its certainty. "Not now, not yet. The prophecy that binds your mark to mine, it frightens me. And I will not risk the kingdom, nor my own soul, for a bond I cannot control." The courtyard gasped. Elira's knees threatened to buckle, but she forced herself upright. Her heart felt like it had been cleaved in two. The people whispered behind their hands, and some looked away, embarrassed for the public display. She had expected hesitation, perhaps even fear in his eyes, but rejection, public, cold, deliberate. Before she could step back, another voice rang out, smooth and daring, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Then I will claim her." Every eye turned to the newcomer. Riven, Kalen's rival Alpha, strode forward with a confidence that seemed almost arrogant. His dark eyes glimmered with fire and mischief, and his smile, sharp and knowing, made the nobles shiver. He did not bow. He did not hesitate. He simply reached for Elira as if daring anyone to stop him. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, others gasped in outrage. But Kalen remained still, like a statue carved from shadow and stone, his jaw tight, his fists clenched. Rage and regret warred within him. He had rejected her, and now he watched as another claimed what he had denied. Elira felt a strange mixture of fear, anger, and something else she could not name. Riven's hand hovered near hers, daring her to accept. She did not move. The weight of the moment pressed upon her, heavier than any crown or sword. She had been rejected by the one she had longed for, and now another stepped into the role she had hoped would never be taken. Kaelin's eyes darkened. A shadow seemed to pass over him, and the wind whispered through the courtyard, lifting Elira's hair like a warning. She could feel the tension in the air, almost taste it, a storm on the brink of breaking. Riven bent slightly toward her, voice low but clear. "Do not fear, Omega. You belong where power sees you fit." Elira's gaze met Kaelin's across the courtyard. There was pain there, yes, but also something else, a flicker of longing, regret, and a storm of unspoken emotion. Her chest tightened further, and for a moment she wondered if he had made a mistake, or if he was simply afraid of the bond they could share. Kaelin's lips pressed into a thin line. He could feel the pull of her presence, the magnetic force of her mark, and yet his pride, his fear, kept him frozen. To move toward her now would be to admit weakness. To claim her would be to risk everything he had built, and everything he had lost. The crowd watched, enthralled, as Riven finally touched Elira's hand. The moment their fingers brushed, a faint glow erupted from her moonblood mark, pale and silver against her skin. A hush fell over the courtyard. Some whispered of omens, others of curses, but everyone felt the power thrumming in the air. Elira's heart raced. She wanted to pull away, to run, to demand her own freedom. But a strange warmth passed through her at the touch of Riven's hand. She did not trust him, not fully, yet she felt the beginning of a connection that was as dangerous as it was compelling. Kaelin's shadow fell across her vision. He had not moved, had not spoken, but the weight of his presence pressed on her like a stone. His eyes were fixed on her, dark and stormy, and in them she saw not just rejection but a warning, a longing, a battle he could not fight aloud. The festival music faltered as the tension peaked. Lanterns swayed in the sudden wind, casting dancing shadows on the marble floors. The air seemed to crackle with energy, as if the very kingdom was aware of the choices being made above its head. Then, as if on cue, Elira's moonblood mark flared brighter, a pale crescent against her wrist that glowed like the moon itself. She gasped, stepping back slightly. The crowd fell silent. Even Riven seemed startled, his confident smile faltering for just a heartbeat. A whisper, soft and urgent, seemed to pass through the wind. "The bond is claimed by none yet." Kaelin's fists unclenched, but the storm in his eyes remained. He wanted to step forward, to take her hand, to shield her from the dangerous forces that already circled them both. But the weight of his fear, his past, and the prophecy that haunted him held him frozen. Riven looked at him then, with a smirk that was more challenge than smile. "Do you intend to act, Alpha, or will you stand and watch your chance slip away?" The entire kingdom seemed to hold its breath. Elira's heart pounded, not from fear of the crowd, but from the impossible tension between the two alphas, one who had rejected her, and one who dared to claim her before all eyes. And then, the night deepened. The festival torches flickered violently as if responding to the energy in the courtyard. The wind howled, and somewhere high in the palace, a bell tolled, not in celebration but in warning. Elira's mark pulsed again, brighter, warmer, and for the first time she felt it was calling out to her, demanding a choice she was not yet ready to make. She looked at Kaelin, whose eyes had never left her, and Riven, whose presence was both daring and dangerous. Her voice was barely a whisper, lost in the wind, but it carried more power than she knew. "This is not over." Kaelin's shadowed gaze met hers once more, a storm of regret and desire brewing behind his eyes. Riven's hand lingered near hers, a challenge and a promise at once. And above them all, the moon rose higher, silver and silent, its light spilling across the courtyard like a witness to the choices yet to come. The kingdom held its breath. The story was only beginning. The night after the Festival of Shadows, The kingdom of Valdoria was quiet, yet the tension that had erupted in the grand courtyard lingered like a shadow over its streets. Lanterns burned low in the alleys, and whispers of the Moonblood Omega's rejection traveled even to the quietest corners of the kingdom. But Elira had no thought for whispers, nor for the nobles' gossip. Her mind was consumed with one thought: freedom. She walked quickly, her cloak brushing against the stones, leaving the palace behind. The wind carried a chill that nipped at her cheeks and reminded her that she was alone, yet not truly alone, for the moonblood mark on her wrist glimmered faintly, as if alive with its own heartbeat. The forest outside the city called to her, a place of shadows and secrets where the kingdom's eyes could not reach. The shadowed forest was ancient. Its trees grew taller than towers, their thick branches intertwining so closely that the moonlight only trickled through in silver threads. Here, the air was thick with magic, and old spirits lingered among the roots and rocks. Few dared to enter after nightfall. But Elira had no choice. She needed to think, to breathe, to escape the weight of eyes, judgments, and crowns. She had barely stepped into the forest when a movement made her freeze. Shadows shifted between the trees, faster than any human could move. Her mark burned hotter against her wrist, warning her of danger. From the darkness emerged a figure, tall, cloaked in black, with eyes like storm clouds. Kalen. He stepped forward, his presence commanding the shadows around him. "Elira," he said, his voice low, filled with an emotion she could not name, regret, anger, something deeper. "You should not be here alone." "I could say the same for you," Elira replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Her hands clenched at her sides, the glow of her mark illuminating her worry. "Why are you following me?" Kalen's gaze softened briefly before the storm returned. "Because danger follows you. And because I cannot let you go entirely." He did not step closer, but the air between them was taut, like a bowstring ready to snap. Elira's eyes narrowed. "You rejected me in front of the entire kingdom. Why now? Why follow me here when you have made your choice?" "I rejected what I feared, not what I felt," Kalen admitted, his voice almost a whisper, though it carried through the forest. "I fear what your mark can do. I fear the prophecy tied to it. I fear losing you." Elira's breath caught in her throat. She had expected pride, arrogance, anger, but not the tremor of vulnerability that undercut the king's power. Yet even as she listened, her instincts screamed caution. Kalen's hesitation was dangerous, and the forest itself seemed to sense it. Before she could respond, another figure stepped from the shadows. Riven, the rival Alpha, moved with a fluid grace as if the darkness obeyed him. His eyes, dark and daring, flicked from Kalen to Elira. "So the king fears his own desires," he said, voice teasing, confident. "I thought I would have more time alone with the Omega." Elira's heart pounded. The two alphas, one rejected and one daring, stood on either side of her in the forest. The tension was so thick that even the trees seemed to lean closer, listening. She could feel their power, their dominance, and the pull of the bond that seemed to vibrate from her mark. "I do not belong to either of you," she said firmly, holding her hands out, palms glowing faintly. "I am not a prize to be claimed." Riven laughed softly, though it lacked malice. "No one said you were a prize, Omega. You are something far more dangerous, something the kingdom does not understand." Kalen stepped closer, his boots crunching on the fallen leaves. "And I understand too much. That is why I cannot claim you yet." The forest seemed to shiver at the words, as if acknowledging the truth in them. Elira's mark pulsed brighter, and a soft silver light spread across the trees. Spirits stirred, their whispers threading through the branches. They spoke of bonds, choices, and consequences, an ancient warning that seemed directed at all three of them. "You cannot hide here," Kalen said, his voice firmer now. "Danger is not only outside these trees. The curse tied to your moonblood will not wait for comfort or hesitation. It will act on its own if left unchecked." Elira swallowed hard. The truth of her power was more than just a legend. It was alive, and it demanded attention. She had always feared it, but now, standing between two alphas whose rivalry crackled like lightning, she realized she could no longer ignore it. Riven stepped closer, brushing a branch with his fingertips. "The forest itself responds to her mark," he said. "You can feel it, can't you, Omega? Power, danger, and a choice that is yours alone." Elira's gaze darted between them. Kalen's eyes held stormy regret, while Riven's shone with daring curiosity. Both were powerful, both strong, and yet each was flawed in ways she could sense. Kalen was haunted by fear and pride, Riven by ambition and charm. She realized, for the first time, that neither could protect her entirely. She would have to fight for herself as much as for them. A rustle in the trees interrupted her thoughts. A shadow beast, dark and silent, lunged from behind a twisted oak. Elira gasped and instinctively stepped back. Kalen reacted instantly, his body a shield as the creature's claws scraped the air where she had been standing moments before. Riven moved as well, his speed unmatched, drawing the creature's attention with a roar of challenge. The two alphas, rivals in the kingdom, were now forced into a precarious alliance, protecting Elira against the forest's dangers. Elira watched, heart racing, as they fought in a blur of motion and strength. Kalen's power was precise, strategic, controlled by his fear and desire to protect. Riven's was fluid, daring, unpredictable, a force of raw energy. Together they forced the shadow beast back into the darkness, and it vanished, leaving a faint trail of silver mist behind. Breathing heavily, Elira's mark pulsed again. She felt it as a surge of warning and power, but also as a call. A prophecy that had long haunted Kalen's thoughts now whispered directly to her. The bond is claimed by none yet. The kingdom will burn before choice is made. Kalen's gaze met hers once more, stormy and dark. "This forest is not safe. You cannot run from what is meant for you." "And I will not," Elira replied, her voice trembling yet steady. "I will choose my path, but it is not for either of you to decide. It is mine." Riven smirked, though there was respect in his eyes. "Wise words. You are not as helpless as the court thinks, Omega." The three of them walked deeper into the forest, the tension between them taut as a bowstring. Kalen kept a careful distance, shadowed and silent, while Riven's presence was constant, daring and challenging. Elira's heart felt torn between fear and curiosity, longing and defiance. Hours passed, and the forest deepened. Strange lights flickered between the trees, whispers of old spirits who watched with unseen eyes. The moonblood mark glowed brighter with each step, pulling Elira forward, as if guiding her to some unknown destiny. Finally, they reached a clearing where the moonlight poured down in silver shafts. Elira stopped, feeling the pulse of her mark, the magic in the forest, and the power of the two alphas standing on either side of her. "The choice is coming," Kalen said softly, almost to himself. "Whether we are ready or not, it will demand us all." Riven's voice cut through the silence. "And when it comes, only the Omega can decide. Not the kings, not the rivals, not the kingdom." Elira nodded. For the first time, she realized the truth of her power. It was not a curse to fear. It was a bond, a responsibility, and a path she must navigate on her own terms. But even as she embraced that knowledge, the forest stirred. Shadows shifted, whispers rose like wind through the trees, and the prophecy echoed. "The bond is claimed by none yet. The kingdom will burn before choice is made." Elira's heart raced. Danger was near, power was near, and the Alpha's rivalry burned hotter than any flame she had ever known. The night was far from over, and the trials of the forest were only the beginning. Her gaze turned to Kalen, stormy and conflicted, and then to Riven, daring and unpredictable. The choice ahead was hers alone, but neither Alpha would let her face it without consequence. The shadows deepened. The forest seemed alive, whispering secrets and threats alike. And above all, the moon shone silver and unyielding, a witness to what was to come. Elira knew one thing with certainty. The path forward would not be easy, and the night was far from over. The kingdom of Valdoria had grown restless. News of the Omega's rejection by the Alpha King and her public claim by Riven had spread like wildfire. Nobles whispered in shadowed corridors, commoners murmured in crowded markets, and even the spirits of the ancient forest seemed uneasy. Magic stirred in the air, thick and electric, responding to the Moonblood Omega who now walked between two powerful alphas. The King's Council, wary of the prophecy tied to Elira's mark, decreed a trial of blood and shadows. It was a test not merely of strength, but of courage, loyalty, and truth. Whoever passed would have the right to claim the Omega, not as a prize, but as a soul bound to theirs by choice, respect, and destiny. The trial took place in the Throne City, a place of marble towers, gilded bridges, and streets that now shimmered with silver mist from Elira's mark. The city seemed alive, as if it could sense the trial's gravity, and every citizen who dared to watch could feel the tension in their bones. Elira stood at the entrance of the trial arena. Her heart pounded, yet she was calm in the way of one who understood that fear could be weaponized or overcome. Her mark glimmered faintly, warning her of the challenges ahead. She glanced at Kalen and Riven. Kalen's expression was stormy, his pride and fear warring behind eyes dark as the night. He was the Alpha King, yet tonight, his power alone was not enough to claim her. Riven's face was confident, daring, yet Elira noticed the subtle tension in his shoulders. Even he was uncertain, aware that the trial might demand more than he could offer. The first challenge was a test of courage. Shadow beasts, twisted creatures born of the forest's ancient magic, emerged from mist and darkness. Their eyes glowed red and their claws scraped the ground like thunder. The Omega had to lead her alphas through the creature's path, unscathed and unyielding. Kalen moved first, his steps deliberate. His power was precise, calculated. Each strike he made was efficient, controlled, protecting Elira with every motion. Yet there was hesitation in his eyes, a fear that he might falter, that his strength would not be enough. Riven, on the other hand, moved with daring confidence. His strikes were fluid, almost playful but deadly in accuracy. He laughed softly as he parried the beasts, daring them to strike at him while keeping Elira safe. Though bold, his approach lacked Kalen's restraint, and Elira felt the danger pulse around them. She realized then that this trial was more than strength or courage. It was a reflection of their hearts. Kalen's fear came from love restrained, Riven's from ambition untempered, and the creatures responded to emotion, drawn to fear and hesitation. Elira's own power flared as she raised her hands. Silver light streamed from her moonblood mark, blinding the shadow beasts and pushing them back. Her heart surged, not with fear but with understanding. Her power was not just a curse to fear. It was a weapon, a shield, and a guide. She could control it. She could shape the trial. The crowd gasped as the mist lifted, revealing a path through the arena clear of beasts. Kalen's eyes softened, seeing her strength, and Riven's smirk faltered slightly, acknowledging her power. The first stage of the trial was complete, yet the tension among the three had only deepened. The second stage was a test of loyalty. The alphas were given a choice: pursue the prize for themselves, or protect the Omega at cost to their pride and reputation. Kalen's first instinct was to act, to claim her, but he hesitated, remembering the prophecy that had haunted him since the festival. Riven, ever daring, moved forward boldly, but his eyes constantly flicked to Kalen, wary of the other alpha's power and presence. Elira's mind raced. The trial demanded more than obedience. It demanded insight, discernment, and trust. She could see the truth in both alphas. Kalen loved her silently, fighting against his fear. Riven desired her, yes, but not blindly. He sought strength, protection, and respect in equal measure. She realized that both were bound to her by forces beyond pride or ambition. A shadowed figure appeared, a messenger from the spirits, its eyes hollow and voice like wind through leaves. The bond is claimed by none yet. Choose wisely, for the wrong choice will bring ruin. The words echoed in the arena. Kalen's jaw tightened. He wanted to move, to claim her and end the trial, but the stakes weighed heavily on him. To act without consideration could doom them all. Riven's gaze flicked to Elira, reading her expression, gauging her reaction. Elira took a deep breath. She stepped between the two alphas, lifting her hand. "The trial is not theirs to win or lose," she said, voice clear, resonant. "It is mine to decide, and they will follow where I lead." The crowd fell silent. Even the shadowed spectators of the arena seemed to hold their breath. The truth was laid bare. The Omega was not a prize. She was a force of destiny, and only she could navigate its demands. The final stage of the trial was the test of truth. Each alpha had to reveal the deepest part of their soul, fears, regrets, desires, to prove their worthiness. Kalen stepped forward first, his shadowed eyes meeting Elira's. "I fear losing you," he confessed, voice low, almost a whisper. "I feared your power, your mark would bring harm. And yet, I cannot ignore that my heart belongs to you, whether I am ready or not. I would face the prophecy, endure the consequences, if it means keeping you safe." Riven's turn came next. He smiled faintly, but it did not reach his eyes. "I seek strength and balance, not conquest," he said. "I could claim you for the kingdom, for power, for pride, but that is not my purpose. My purpose is to see you safe, to honor the bond you are meant to choose, even if it is not me." Elira felt her heart tighten. Both alphas spoke truth. Both revealed the depth of their character, their strength, and their flaws. And yet her own path remained uncertain. Her mark pulsed, glowing brighter with every heartbeat, urging her to decide, but also warning her of the cost. Suddenly, the arena trembled. A shadow from Kalen's past emerged, a wraith of betrayal, a creature that fed on fear and regret. It lunged at Elira, and Kalen froze, torn between fighting it and fearing the bond's consequences. Riven reacted instinctively, drawing the shadow away with daring force, yet even he struggled against its strength. Elira's silver light erupted from her mark, weaving around them, binding the shadow in ethereal chains. The creature shrieked and dissolved into mist, leaving the arena quiet and trembling. The crowd gasped in awe, seeing not only the Omega's power but the delicate balance she maintained between the alphas. Kalen's gaze softened, admiration and longing mixing with his stormy regret. Riven's smirk returned, though now tempered by respect. Both alphas realized what Elira already knew. The trial had tested them, but its final judgment belonged to her alone. Elira took a step forward, her mark glowing brighter than ever. The prophecy whispered once more in the wind. "The bond is claimed by none yet. The kingdom will burn before choice is made." She understood now that the choice was not between alphas alone. It was between destiny, power, and the courage to shape her own path. The crowd fell silent. The trial was over, yet nothing was decided. Elira's heart raced as she looked at Kalen and Riven. She knew she must choose, not with haste, not with fear, but with understanding. And in that moment, she realized that true power was not in the bond itself, but in the wisdom to wield it wisely. Kalen stepped closer, shadowed and silent, offering strength without demanding it. Riven's eyes held daring and challenge, a reminder that life's choices were never simple. Elira's mark pulsed one last time, a silver crescent of moonlight that seemed to echo her heartbeat. Her voice was clear, resonant, and steady. "The trial is complete," she said, "but the choice is mine, and I will not rush it, not for fear, not for pride, not for power. The bond is claimed by none yet." The arena trembled with the finality of her words. The spectators, the nobles, even the spirits of the forest seemed to pause, acknowledging her declaration. The kingdom had watched, waited, and now it knew. The Omega was no pawn, no prize. She was a force that would shape the fate of kings, rivals, and all who dared to follow her path. Kaelin's shadowed eyes met hers, storm and longing within them. Riven's gaze dared her, challenged her, respected her. The moon above bathed the arena in silver light, a witness to the decisions yet to come. And as the mist swirled around her, the prophecy echoed one final time. The bond is claimed by none yet. The kingdom will burn before choice is made. The night was far from over. The trial of blood and shadows had ended, but the true test, the one of trust, courage, and destiny, was only beginning. The night sky above Valdoria was heavy with anticipation. A rare lunar eclipse bathed the kingdom in silver and shadow, casting the land into a twilight that felt neither day nor night. High above, atop the cliffs, the ancient moon temple waited, a place where destiny and magic intertwined, and where prophecies were revealed in whispers of wind and shadow. Elira stood at the temple's base, her moonblood mark glowing like molten silver. The wind lifted her hair around her face as if urging her forward. Behind her, Kaelin and Riven approached from opposite paths, their steps echoing across the stone cliffs. Neither looked at the other. The tension between them was a living thing, coiled and ready to strike. "The eclipse begins," Kaelin said, his voice low, almost reverent. He had shed the armor of pride and fear, yet the storm in his eyes remained. "The prophecy will show itself tonight. Everything we have feared, everything we have wanted, will come to light." Riven's expression was calm, yet his eyes burned with unspoken challenge. "And the Omega," he said, voice smooth as silk, "will decide the fate of us all. Do not forget that." Elira's gaze flicked between them. She felt the weight of her mark, the pull of destiny and the power thrumming in her veins. The prophecy was real and it demanded choice, courage, and sacrifice. Her heart pounded, yet her mind was clear. This was her trial, her moment, and she would not be a pawn. The temple steps were carved with ancient runes, glowing faintly as Elira ascended. Kaelin and Riven flanked her, their presence both protection and challenge. The air grew colder, the wind sharper, and the eclipse's shadow darkened the cliffs. Spirits of the old kingdom stirred in the stones, whispering secrets long forgotten. As they reached the temple's summit, a sudden tremor shook the ground. The prophecy had awakened fully. A shadowed figure, tall and twisting, emerged from the center of the temple. Its eyes were empty, yet burning with hunger for fear and chaos. The creature fed on the doubt and pride of men and alphas alike. Kaelin moved instinctively, placing himself in front of Elira. "Step back," he commanded, but his voice carried a tremor, fear he could not hide. The shadow loomed closer, and Kaelin realized that power alone would not defeat it. Riven stepped forward as well, daring and precise. "It's drawn to weakness," he said. "We have none, not while we stand together or near her." Elira lifted her hands, silver light erupting from her moonblood mark. The shadow hissed, recoiling from the brilliance, but it did not flee. It circled, probing, searching for the heart that could tip the balance. Kaelin's eyes met hers. "Do you understand what must be done?" he asked. "It will take all of us, your power, my strength, and even Riven's daring to survive this. One misstep and—" "Do not say it," Elira interrupted, her voice steady. She felt the surge of power not as a curse but as a calling. "We will face this together, I choose that." Riven nodded, a small respect flickering in his gaze. "Then let us end this trial," he said. "All of it." The shadow lunged. Its claws tore through the air like black lightning. Kaelin met it with strength and precision, parrying each strike, his movements measured and controlled. Riven moved with bold agility, striking and dodging with daring skill, guiding the shadow's attacks toward him to shield Elira. Elira's silver light wrapped around them both, weaving a cage of energy that pulsed with her heartbeat. Her mark flared brighter, a crescent of molten moonlight, connecting the alphas with her power. The creature roared, a sound like thunder and fire, yet it could not break the bond she forged. But the battle was not merely physical. The shadow fed on doubt, on fear, on pride. Kaelin's heart wavered. Memories of failure, of rejection, and of the choice he had once made pressed upon him. Riven's mind wrestled with ambition and desire. Could he let go for Elira's sake? Elira's voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. Focus. Not on fear, not on anger, not on pride. Stand with me. For a moment the alphas faltered. Then, with a single thought of trust and courage, Kaelin and Riven mirrored her energy. The light from Elira's mark surged, a brilliant wave of silver that enveloped the shadow. It shrieked, twisting and writhing until it dissolved into the mist, leaving only silence and the soft glow of the eclipse. Breathing heavily, Elira lowered her hands. Her mark still glimmered, but now with a steady, calm light. She looked at Kaelin, who stood tall yet humbled, sweat on his brow but pride in his eyes. And she looked at Riven, whose daring expression was softened by relief and respect. We, Kaelin began, but words failed him. He realized that strength alone had never been enough to claim her. It was courage, sacrifice, and the willingness to follow her lead that mattered. Riven simply nodded. We did what was right, he said quietly, even if it was not the easiest path. Elira took a deep breath, feeling the connection between them, the bond that had grown stronger through trial and shadow. She understood now that her power was not hers alone. It was a force that united, protected, and revealed truth. And she knew what she must do next. She stepped forward, her silver light spilling across the temple. Kaelin, she said softly, yet with authority, you feared what our bond could bring, but you have faced it tonight. You have fought not for pride, not for kingdom, but for me. That is why you have the right to choose, but so do I. Kaelin's eyes met hers, stormy and vulnerable. Elira, do not speak, she interrupted gently. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions have shown me who you truly are. Riven shifted, his gaze steady. And he asked. Elira looked at him thoughtfully. You have shown courage and respect, even when ambition could have driven you to claim me for power alone. That matters, but the choice is mine. The eclipse reached its peak, the moon completely shadowed, casting the world in silver darkness. It felt as if time itself had paused, waiting for her decision. She could feel the threads of destiny, the pull of the prophecy, the weight of both alphas, strength and hearts. She lifted her hands, the silver light from her mark spreading like a river of moonlight across the cliffs. The air shimmered, and the wind carried the whispers of the prophecy. The bond is claimed by none yet. The kingdom will burn before choice is made. Her voice rang out across the cliffs, strong and unwavering. The bond is not claimed by fear, nor by pride, nor by ambition. It is claimed by trust, courage, and love that grows through trial. Kaelin, Riven, you have both shown me your hearts. But only one path aligns with the destiny we must walk together. She stepped forward toward Kaelin, her hand reaching for his. The storm in his eyes calmed, replaced by understanding and surrender. He did not kneel as a king would before a mate. He knelt as a man, recognizing the power and soul of the Omega before him. I choose you, she whispered, not because of power, not because of prophecy, but because of what I see in you. Strength tempered by care, courage bound to honor, and a heart willing to grow with mine. Kaelin's breath hitched. He took her hand, holding it gently yet firmly. Elira, I am yours as long as you will have me. I will protect you, follow you, and face the prophecy at your side. Riven stepped back, a faint smile on his face, though tinged with sorrow. Then you have chosen wisely, Omega, he said quietly. I will step aside not from weakness but from respect. True strength knows when to fight and when to honor the choice of another. Elira felt a surge of emotion, not only from love but from understanding the weight of the trial. She had faced danger, doubt, and prophecy, and emerged not as a pawn but as a force of destiny. The eclipse slowly passed, the moonlight returning in full silver brilliance. The shadows receded, leaving the kingdom bathed in gentle light. The air felt calm, alive with magic and filled with promise. The trial was complete. The bond was forged, not by fear nor by challenge, but by choice, courage, and heart. Kaelin and Elira stood together, their hands entwined, the mark on her wrist glowing softly as a symbol of their union. Riven, standing a few steps away, bowed slightly, acknowledging their bond and the courage that had brought them here. The kingdom watched from below, witnessing not a king claiming a mate, but a story of trust, redemption, and transformation. The Moonblood Omega had chosen, and in doing so had shaped the destiny of kings, rivals, and the land itself. And as the first rays of dawn touched the cliffs, the wind carried the softest whisper of the prophecy, now at peace. The bond is claimed, by courage, by heart, by destiny fulfilled. The kingdom of Valdoria would remember this night for generations. A night when shadows were faced, hearts were revealed, and love was forged not by power alone, but by the choices that define us all. Elira and Kaelin descended the cliffs together, the sunrise spilling over them like a blessing. Behind them, the moon temple glimmered with magic, a silent witness to courage, sacrifice, and the enduring strength of a bond chosen freely and wisely. The journey was far from over, for destiny never truly rests. But for now, the night of shadows had ended, the prophecy honored, and the bond between the Omega and the Alpha King was unbroken, shining brighter than the moon itself.